Ian Gray for the Confident Live Marketing Show. This is episode 77. This is very exciting because I've got Chris Ducker, my good friend Chris Ducker is on the show. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm very good, Ian. Good to be here, man.
It's just taken about 5 years for me to actually get you on this show. I was
beginning to think you didn't like me, to be honest with you. The thought had crossed my mind to tick you off that Christmas card list.
Oh well, we could talk a little bit about this, about so some of the reasons why that might be the case. Not that I don't like you or that kind of stuff. It's more the why I haven't actually asked you onto this show yet until today. But actually, we've talked a lot about mindset on the show recently, and I think one of the things I speak to a lot of my clients about is the struggle about asking people, like some big names out there, onto the show because they're scared what they're going to say and all this kind of stuff, and comparison syndrome. And so we've talked a lot about all of that, and I'm sure you have dealt with the whole mindset thing with a lot of your clients over the years.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a big issue. So it's great. I'm so excited that you're on the show. It's great to have you here. I can see that Mr. David Bain is in the house. Let's see. David says, "Woohoo, Mr. G and Mr. D. What a combo! Great to see you, Mr. Bain." So today we're talking about
David. I just want to say
he's great.
I genuinely love the guy. We've known each other for a long time, and he's actually part of our Youpreneur incubator coaching group as well. And he's one of the guys that, you know, he's like a ninja, you know, stealthily working away, and then like boom, there's a course that comes out, or boom, there's another podcast launched or something. He's great. He's a pleasure to coach and spend time with.
He's fab. He's definitely one of these people that just gets on with it and doesn't seem to suffer with, well, maybe he does. He has in the past suffered with procrastination, but he's put that behind him and he's now focused on that. So we're not about procrastination on the show. Today, we're going to be talking about how to sell effectively on your live videos. I couldn't think of anyone better than Mr. Chris Ducker. He's been one of these people that in my life has really helped me focus on that and in my growth as well. And I've just realized, Chris, that we first met each other almost 5 years ago in 2015 at the New Media Europe conference.
Oh, right. Okay. For some reason, I thought it was before then, but I mean, it sounds about right as well. This was around the same time that we launched Youpreneur as well, of which you were, I believe, a founding member of as well. And it was, I think we launched Youpreneur for like a month or something before that event. It was, if my memory serves me right, up in Manchester.
That's right. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
exactly. Well, if you've just joined us, I can see some fabulous people watching live. It's great to see. I will talk to you just after just in one more minute. But I also want to say, if you're watching the replay, also great to have you. Just put #replay in the comments, and of course, let us know where in the world you're watching from. If you've got any questions for Chris or for myself today about the whole thing of selling, the scary world of selling, then please do let us know. We'd love to. That's what makes this show really fun, when we have some interactivity. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Chris. That's what makes live video fun.
Absolutely.
Interactivity.
One of the best things about live video is the interaction, the engagement. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Well, we'll be with you just after this. We'll see you in 1 second.
This is the Confident Live Marketing Podcast. Confident Live Marketing Podcast with Ian Gray, helping entrepreneurs level up their impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. Gain confidence in front of the camera, confidence with technology, and confidence with the content and marketing.
Together, we can go live!
Hello, it's Ian Gray here for episode 77 of the Confident Live Marketing Show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today we're going to be talking about how to sell effectively in your live videos. And I'm really excited to have Mr. Chris Ducker on the show to talk about that. I couldn't think of anyone better to talk about the whole realm of selling, particularly when it comes to live videos. So if you struggle with this, if this has been a real issue for you, you're in the right place. And I'd love you to let me know in the comments if you're watching live, or if you're listening to the podcast in the future, just go to iag.me/77 and let us know. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And as I say, the show notes will be at iag.me/77. Today's show is sponsored by my good friends at Content 10x and StreamYard. And so I want to just talk a little bit about Content 10x. Now, Amy is a good friend of, I know, both myself and Chris. I've known Amy for many, many years, and she just lives down the road from me. Not that we've been meeting up recently. For some reason, I don't know whether it's anything to do with the lockdown. Anyway, we're not talking about that. But Content 10x is the complete content repurposing service for entrepreneurs. The great thing about live video, you do all that preparation, you go live, and then you can create so much content from that one piece of content. You can turn it into a blog post, you can turn it into a podcast, you can turn it into social media images and infographics. And this is what Content 10x is all about. From that one piece of content that you create, it will create lots of all these babies all across the interwebs, whether it's podcasts or blog posts. It is so awesome. Now, you can hire Content 10x to do this. This is what they do, but they will also teach you how to do it. So they've got an amazing blog, podcast, and book. All you need to do is go to content10x.com. Now, a few weeks ago, we had Amy on the show to tell us all about this new service that they've got called LinkedIn 10x. And so if you're wanting to level things up on LinkedIn, if you're wanting to just create more buzz and engage much more on LinkedIn, then definitely check out LinkedIn 10x. Once a content per week that you need to create, it will do the rest. And I'm really, really impressed with the service. So to find out more, all you need to do is go to content10x.com. And I thank you so much, Amy and the team, for sponsoring the show. Awesome. Right, well, it's time to introduce my guest today, who is none other if I can speak today, none other than Chris Ducker. Chris is a serial entrepreneur and author of the best-selling books Virtual Freedom, and more recently, The Rise of the Youpreneur, which has just, I've seen, been launched in Japan, which is very exciting. Based in Cambridge, England, he owns and operates several businesses that combined house over 350 full-time employees around the world. He's also a trusted business coach, keynote speaker, podcaster, and the founder of Youpreneur.com, an educational company that coaches entrepreneurs from all walks of life to build a profitable, future-proof business around their experience and expertise. Well, it's time to bring in Chris. Let's bring him on. Let's see if I can get the tech working. Chris, welcome to the show.
It's good to be here, Ian.
Fabulous. It's so good to have you on. And as I was saying just before I started recording for the podcast, it's taken 5 years to get you on the show. And, you know, if I'm being totally honest, part of it was, and I've had this journey along the way with, this entrepreneurial journey. And there's been setbacks along the way. But one of the things that I've struggled with is actually bringing in some of the big names, that the people that I really look up to. And I don't know if you've experienced this before, but sometimes with some people, they can have this kind of like blockage in their brain. They think, "Oh, I couldn't possibly have them on my show." So anyway, thankfully this year I got myself together. I've had a big growth in terms of my mindset, and I've got you on the show. So it's great to have you.
There you go. I would have said yes for episode 1 if you'd have asked me.
I know. And I one of the things that I want to do on the show is be honest and talk about the struggles, because I know I'm not the only one. And, people, we do silly things with our brains. We compare ourselves with others. We set ourselves up to fail. And this show is all about helping people, not just with the technology and the content and the marketing, but also with the mindset. And so I just wanted to be honest about that. And if you're feeling like that, then stop being an idiot, get on with it, and reach out to people.
It's a big thing. One of the things that I like to talk about quite a bit, particularly when I'm working with a new coaching client kind of out of the gate, is imposter syndrome, which is basically what you've been talking about. You shouldn't look at, and it's very, very tough to do it because we're utilizing our phones all day long now. We're scrolling through social media, and we're pretty disconnected with reality if you think about it a lot of the time. And I think what it is, a lot of people look at what other people are posting online and they think, well, why can't I do that? Why don't I have that? Why can't I be at that event or on that stage or on that show? And the fact of the matter is, you shouldn't compare somebody else's 60th or 70th or 80th step to your second or third step. So we're all on this journey together. But the brutal reality of it all is that we're actually at very, very different stages of that journey. And you should not compare yourself. It's tough not to nowadays, but you shouldn't do it.
Oh, absolutely. And, and I wanted to share that story because it just actually articulating that live on a show shows how utterly ridiculous it is. And imposter syndrome is ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous. And you're totally right. Do not compare your first video, your first 10 videos with somebody else's 100th video. Comparison syndrome is such a problem for people in this space, particularly because of social media. So anyway, it's good that we've all woken up to that. But I want to ask you about your live video experience. Can you remember your first live video experience? We had Lou Mangello on the show a few weeks ago, and he was talking.
What was Lou's? Because Lou's lives are like, I will very rarely not click into Lou's live videos when I see that he's like, I mean, I'm a Disney fan anyway, so that's kind of a no-brainer anyway. But I just think the way he utilizes that particular type of medium is better than most people. What was his first one, though? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, he couldn't remember exactly the year, but it was in the mid 2000s, and I think he was utilizing a service called Ustream, which I don't think is really around anymore.
I do remember Ustream. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we tend to think like live video is like this really new thing, but no, it's been around for ages. There was Google Hangouts on there. So he was telling us the story about walking around Disneyland with like a laptop kind of strapped to his back and all this kind of stuff.
Sounds like something he would do as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it was great to hear his story. But yeah, what was your first experience with live, and how did it go?
I very clearly remember both the first time I kind of remember distinctly watching a live video and also broadcasting a live video, and they were both actually with the same piece of software, and that was Periscope when it first came out. I think I might have caught one or two Ustream presentations, but they were kind of business related back in the day, and maybe I didn't pay all that much attention to it or whatever. But Periscope came out. I think it kind of hit pretty hard around sort of February or March of 2015. And I was in Vegas doing a presentation at an event there, and everyone was talking about this live video app, and so it was called Periscope. So I remember getting back to my hotel room, downloading the app, and the first ever live video that I watched somebody doing on Periscope was literally just somebody holding their phone, because you could tell they were holding it because it was moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was just a green ceramic elephant that was sitting on their carpet, I'm assuming in their living room or something. And there was all these like really, really strange and eclectic kind of jungle noises going on. I can't even make this up, I swear. And it was just one of the weirdest experiences I've ever had in my life. Two things came out of it. Number one, I watched that stream way longer than I probably should have. Right? Clearly, I was bored in Vegas for that half an hour, whatever it was. Right? I watched that stream way too long, expecting something amazing to happen, and it didn't. And then, secondly, I instantly said to myself, "How can I use this? How can I use this to show up for my people?" And so that very evening, I had been invited to take a helicopter ride around the Las Vegas Strip by one of the sponsors of the event. I can't remember their name now. And they picked us up in this beautiful stretch limo, and there was champagne and all this sort of stuff. So anyway, we were in the back of this limo, and I remember turning on the Periscope app, hitting the broadcast button, and basically just rolling down the Vegas Strip with my arm out of the side of this limo. And that was my first ever broadcast. And I remember seeing all these little colorful hearts popping up on the screen, And man, I was hooked. I love those hearts. Who doesn't love hearts? Who doesn't want to be loved? And so,
Exactly.
but I think there was there was a good gap between that and kind of like the follow up broadcast where I was actually using it for what I ended up wanting to truly use it for. But I'll tell you, Periscope I fell in love with Periscope. I found it very, very easy to use. It was very intuitive. It was very, very, simple to go live with. And throughout the course of 2015, I amassed a very, very strong following on Periscope. That first broadcast down the Vegas Strip probably had 30 people watching it. But, you fast forward into July and August, and I would have upwards of 400 or 500 people on every broadcast. But I was using it every day. I was going live for about 30 minutes every day, Monday to Friday, to talk about building a business online. And we actually, when we opened the doors to the Youpreneur Academy in September of 2015, we did so on Periscope live. And within two broadcasts, 45 minutes each, about 12 hours between the two to hit the different time zones. We had over 200 people join at $49 a month on that launch. And it was entirely from Periscope viewers. It wasn't until about a week or so later that we ended up emailing it out to our email list, our wait list. So that was it. I mean, I was all about that. It was unfortunate at Periscope in terms of kind of like what happened with them. And obviously it's still around and everything, but yeah, I love Periscope.
It is a shame. I mean, I still broadcast to Periscope, and I'm broadcasting to Periscope today, and we get a few viewers on there, but it's not like it used to be. It is a shame, and it kind of like it's fallen into the same place as Google Hangouts on Air and Blab. I mean, let's not talk. We're going to get all teary eyed with all these kind of tech disasters.
I will never cry over tech. Trust me, that I've got that kind of relationship with it, but. I was gutted kind of like when it started to lose its footing, because I'd become so comfortable using it, and my people had become so comfortable utilizing it to converse with me as well. But these things happen. It is what it is.
Well, I think you're totally right. I mean, yeah, we can get, some of us, like myself, can get, too engrossed with the technology. But the most important thing is the community that you're building.
Yes.
And you were able to build that community on Periscope. And that was the sad thing. Not that Periscope, I don't know, for whatever other reason, that the tech maybe didn't work. But yeah, that is sad. I can see some fabulous people watching live. So just to say hello to Dr. Joe North watching on LinkedIn. It's great to see you, Joe. Hope you're doing well. Let us know what you're doing in the world of live at the moment. And also, is this also on LinkedIn? Martin Buckland from Toronto. So good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. And I'm very confused. Joe is hopped over to YouTube. So you were on LinkedIn, you're now on YouTube. David Bain. So what do you say, David? Thank you for the kind words, Chris. I don't think I've been the best student, as I haven't had as much time as I wanted over the few months. I don't know why I'm laughing. Because David, you are somebody that I always look up to in terms of what you do. But things are brewing. My question is, what is an online selling approach that used to work really well a couple of years ago, but you wouldn't recommend nowadays? And that's a fabulous question. What is your thoughts on that, Chris?
My thoughts are, I mean, I don't know necessarily whether it was still working a couple of years ago, but certainly when I started getting more and more active online, 2009, 2010, I remember actually, I think there was a very, very big launch, a big product launch in 2011, 2012 for an outsourcing-based sort of course or product. And the guy whose name now completely escapes me, I only remember it because of the connection of the outsourcing industry. The whole, this is my mansion, this is my Ferrari, that sort of sleazeball selling is not it doesn't work anymore. Here's my kind of thoughts on it, and I'm curious to know your thoughts, Ian, as well, because you've been to a lot of events, you've met a lot of people in the industry. My thoughts on online consumer behavior in the business education space anyway, is that people's BS antennas have become a lot more sensitive over the last few years. And I think that when people say, I've got a 7-figure business and, I'm making 6 figures a month and all this kind of stuff, I think people are actually genuinely starting to wise up to those sort of types of statements. Or at the very minimum, they're starting to not take them at face value. Because it's very easy to say, I'm a 7-figure entrepreneur, and you might make 7 figures in revenue. But if you're spending $700K in Facebook ads to bring in $1,000 or $1 million in sales, good luck. You're making $300K before taxes, before other costs, before salaries, and all the rest of it. Like, how much money is that 7-figure entrepreneur actually left with at the end of the day? And I think this is where people now are starting to not take things so much at face value. I'm curious to know your thoughts on that, actually.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's surprising that ever did work. And you go back to the whole the sleazy the I don't know, in front of the mansion with the cars. I've seen that, and weirdly I've seen it even this year or certainly the end of last year. And people are still doing it, but I think you're right. People are wising up to that. And, the whole thing about the whole 7-figure, 8-figure thing, I always kind of thought, well, why are people kind of attracted to that? Whereas, what's actually behind the picture? I'm more interested in, and I think more and more people are interested, well, what's the lifestyle like? You might be making, as you say, you might be making 7 or 8 figures, but what's the outlay? I'm more interested in finding out a little bit more about the real person. That's one of the reasons why I love live video, because it's much more difficult to fake that, I think, on when you're going live. So I would definitely agree with you.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. I can see that Joe from Idea Time Studio says, hi Ian, I've just finished my Zoom challenge week. Interested to hear Chris on selling live, as I feel like I've given loads of free value, but now feel pushy and a bit rude doing the promo. So I think what we're going to do, Joe, we're going to come back to you on that one, because that's exactly the kind of question that I want to ask Chris about, because so many of us, I think, give so much value. We're pumping out content all the time, and we kind of forget about the whole selling thing. Before we get onto that, Chris, just your take on why live video. We've covered this a little bit, but that was when you launched Youpreneur. This was back in 2015, and you went on Periscope, and it was a massive, massive success. But in 2020 or 2021, do you think live video is still worth using in terms of growing our business, building community, and ultimately in selling our products and our services?
I mean, that's a loaded question, Ian. I mean, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. But I think that just like with any other type of medium that we utilize to be able to spread our message and market our businesses and our brands, you've got to be as strategic as possible with it if you want to have not just short-term, but also long-term, returns on that time and energy investment. And I think, there's definitely, live video is not going anywhere. It's going to become more and more and more important. But that will obviously bring, a certain amount of junk along with it as well. And I think that, those who do take it seriously, who do prepare for their shows, who do research the guests that they have on and not just say, I'm doing this because I need to create half an hour of content. Those that genuinely, really, truly prepare for their live shows are going to be the ones that are most successful. You could put it down to something like, daytime TV, those shows. Yeah, they're live. A lot of them, some of them are taped, but a lot of them are live. And, that the producers are preparing those shows weeks, sometimes months in advance, right? It's not always on the fly. Sometimes they might jump on, big news stories as discussion points, but a lot of the time, that content could ultimately be seen as evergreen to a certain degree as well. So I think the preparation and strategizing is going to become more important for those that actually genuinely want it to bring an ROI on their time and their energy. But I also feel like just video in general is going to become more and more and more important as well. So, bearing in mind when you go live, have at the back of your mind, well, this 10 minutes of this 30-minute live broadcast, this 10 minutes, I'm not going to interact with my live audience. I'm not going to say things like, if you're watching live or if you're catching the replay, because these 10 minutes that I've already prepared, they're going to be ripped out and used on YouTube, and I'm going to SEO that, and that's going to be evergreen content, or I'm going to embed it on my blog or give it to my membership, clients, or whatever the case may be. Like, I think, like you said, it's just about the preparation. If you prepare, you can really utilize it way more than just producing a live show for half an hour once a week or whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And so I think we've talked a lot about maybe the macro side of things. So that's planning the next 10 shows that you're going to do, and you're going to have a guest on to talk about that. And maybe you've got a course coming out in 5 weeks' time, and so you need to prepare to talk about that and let people know about that, of course. But then within those broadcasts, absolutely planning it. And I couldn't do what I'm doing today if I didn't plan exactly what I'm going to do. And I've got a structure. I know what I'm going to say. I know the first thing that I'm going to say, because don't know about you, Chris, but sometimes, even today, I press that go live button and sometimes my brain will go to mush. So it's always good to have something in front of you just in case your brain does go to mush. So I think that's all really, really important stuff to think about, particularly when it comes to selling. So for entrepreneurs today who are using live video, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing them? Is it the selling? Is it the tech? Is it the mindset? You're helping entrepreneurs all around the world on a regular basis through all the things that you do. What do you see as the biggest hurdle that people are facing?
Fear.
Particularly with fear.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tiny little word that spoils so much for so many people. It's fear, without a doubt. The tech thing, that's an excuse. I've very, very, very easily on any platform that you choose to go live nowadays. The platforms you utilize have made it like that because they want you to go live, right? And I mean, if you're good at what you do and you have expertise, you've got stories to tell, experience to share, you should be utilizing live video in some capacity on at least some kind of a regular basis. The big thing that I see with people is fear. It's fear of whatever, everything from looking funny on camera to stumbling over their words because it's live and it's not edited. They can't, there's no do-overs. There's no kind of restarts. Right the way down to, obviously, the fear of asking people to take action in some variety. And I mean, to talk to, I don't know the lady's name. I know it was a lady because I saw her avatar, but here in the comments, it's just Idea Time Studio. To comment, Joe. Okay, so to comment on Joe's, comment earlier on, all week long she's been doing this Zoom challenge. I'm assuming it's getting people to utilize Zoom in some way, shape, or form, hence the name. She's been given lots and lots and lots of value on helping people to, do exactly that. And now comes a time where Joe's got something to sell, whether it be a course that she's maybe looking to sell, or maybe it's a coaching program, or maybe it's a one-day workshop she's going to be offering. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. The difference between Joe actually making money out of whatever it is that she wants to do in terms of what she's got to sell to those people that have taken the challenge, and Joe not making any money by doing that, is simply by Joe asking. The success or non-success that she has right now at this point is going to entirely come down to her. And if she lets fear get the better side of her and pull her back from asking for the order, for asking for the sale, for that lack of rejection, or that fear of rejection and not selling enough, I can tell you, you are 100% going to fail when it comes to sales if you don't ask for the sale. 100% going to fail every single time. Wayne Gretzky, the NHL player, the hockey player, you're 100% going to miss every shot that you don't take, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. So I think, Joe, listen, allow Uncle Chris here to give you some sage advice. If you feel like you've given lots and lots and lots of value to the people that have taken your challenge over the last week, they are waiting for you to make an offer. You might not see it, you might not feel it, but they are waiting for you to make an offer. Regardless of any size of audience, there'll always be 20% of that audience that want to go one step further with you. And out of that 20%, there'll be 5% that want to go one step further even more with you. So you better not only have something to sell, but something to upsell when people initially buy as well. And so, yeah, there you go. Fear, 100% fear. Tiny little word, but it can cause so many problems.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. My goodness, that's some tough love from Chris, Joe. I think we need that tough love, because the fear thing is the biggest issue. I've also said many times on this show, we talk about the 3 obstacles to live video. There's the content and the marketing side of things. What on earth do you say on your lives? And we do, obviously, there's the selling part of that. There's the technology and the gear and all that kind of stuff, which we can get overly excited about. But then there's the fear and the mindset. I totally agree with you, Chris, about the tech is almost like a red herring. I'm involved with loads of Facebook groups, like the Ecamm Live community on Facebook is great. But what's the one type of question that everyone's asking? It's the tech. And that's not the problem. The problem is, it's the mindset. It's actually getting started, and it's the selling side of things. So, thank you for that, Chris. That's really, really important. So, when it comes to the selling, why do you think we find it so hard? You mentioned fear, but is it maybe down to we're just worried about what people think about us? We're worried about rejection. I think rejection is a big thing. We're worried about that.
Rejection is the big one. Nobody wants to put themselves out there and be rejected, right? Nobody wants to do that. Yeah. And so I think, and obviously confidence it plays a big part in that, and it's easy for me to stand here or sit here and give out that kind of advice to someone. Because I've been selling since I was 17 years old. It's what I built my career on, sales and marketing. I'm a very confident guy, and I feel particularly, actually, if I've got something of value that I know is going to answer questions and solve problems for the people in my community, if I put that together, I know I'm going to sell it. I know I'm going to sell it because I know my community. Just listen to your prospects. That's sales 101 right there. You can replace that word prospect with listener, subscriber, viewer, or, reader, whatever you want to call it, right? Like, just listen to your prospect. Listen to what they say. They will tell you what they need help with by asking questions of you. They will tell you what their challenges are. They will tell you what their problems are that they're encountering. And then it's up to you, if you're a true blue entrepreneur, it's up to you to create solutions to those problems and answers to those questions. And if you do it well enough, then you'll make a sell. It's I hate to say it's really that simple, but it kind of is that simple.
It is. It is that simple, but getting to that point can take a long time, and that's what this show is all about. And one of the things that I feel very passionate about, I want to be honest about the struggles that I've had over the years, in lack of confidence, and I've been wanting to share my journey. So on the show, I have talked about the struggles with, imposter syndrome, getting you on the show, and other things like that, because I know that these are real struggles. Not everyone maybe can be as confident as you, Chris. You've been doing this from 17. Okay. That is the way you're wired. But you can. The good news is, the fantastic news is, it is possible to rewire your brain to work on that mindset, and that's what we're going to be. We've talked about, we had Patrice McCulley on the show last week talking about mindset tips. Today we're going to be focusing on sales. So just a few comments. Sasha Lydiard is here. Great tips from both of you. Thank you, Sasha, for all your help with the Facebook Messenger bot. And I forgot actually to mention, if you go to confident.live/subscribe, you can get notified for all my future shows. So definitely check that out. Martin Buckland is on LinkedIn saying, yes, agreed, fear is the big obstacle. And I know, Martin, you've got a personal story when it comes to life, when it came to getting over that fear, which you did. I'm so proud of you. And Joe from Idea Time Studio says, thank you. You're so right, of course, Chris. Massively appreciated. I'm going to go for it, Joe. I'm totally excited for you, Joe. Let us know.
I just want to comment on that very quickly, actually, because I think that the one thing I see a lot with working with clients a lot of the time is actually they might actually have the confidence. Joe clearly does now, right? They might have the confidence. They might have, the very acute awareness of the clarity and of the value that they're bringing to people. But sometimes we just need the permission to go ahead and chase that down. And I'm glad that Joe has said that she's going to go for it. I like that. Joe, hit me up on Instagram, sincerely, at Chris Ducker. Send me a DM and let me know what kind of result you get out of asking people to go ahead and buy whatever it is you're selling. Very curious to see how you do.
Awesome. Yeah, let us know. That would be really good. And the other thing is just turning up, scheduling your live video and saying to everyone, I'm going to be talking about this new, whatever it is that you're going to sell. Tell people about it. And then you can't get out of it then. You've got to do it. So just before we come back, we're going to be talking about some top tips onto how to become more confident with selling and selling effectively. But I do want to bring in my next sponsor of the show. If I can find the button, it is here. It is. Let me just turn off Chris. Sorry, there we go. Today, second sponsor is StreamYard. StreamYard is awesome. It is a fabulous live streaming tool that works directly in the browser. So this will work whether you're a Mac user or a PC user. You can have up to 10 people on the screen at the same time. And you can do so many other things. So, for example, you can highlight comments on the screen with your own titles. You can share your screen. You can add your own brand colors as well. You can stream to Facebook, Periscope, LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and more. And if you're feeling fancy, you can use green screens if you want to get all like that. All of that is on the free version of StreamYard, which is awesome. Now, they've got loads more features. If you go on one of their paid plans, you can add your own logo, overlays, backgrounds, videos, and multi-streaming to up to 7 different destinations. So if you want to expand your reach across all the different channels, you can do that with StreamYard. So all you need to do to find out more, there's a free plan and some paid plans. Just go to iag.me/StreamYard. That's iag.me/StreamYard. And I thank you, StreamYard, for sponsoring the show. It's a great tool that I definitely recommend. So let's bring Chris back in. Let's see if I can get the tech working. There we go. We're using a few different tools today, just because that's what I like to do, dabbling in all the different tools. So, what would be your first tip in terms of when it comes to selling on live video? We've talked about obviously planning in advance, making sure that you know when you're going to be selling. When your course is coming out or your service is going to come out, and planning that into your schedule. But when it comes to actually going on your live and getting the confidence to do that and the structure, what would you say?
Well, I think, it really comes down as to whether or not you're actually going live specifically to sell and only to sell, or whether or not you're going live to provide some level of content and then sell something at the end, maybe like the old-fashioned webinar approach, right? I do believe, I'm a big believer of letting people know what's coming their way. And so, nothing surprises me anything, or rather any more when it comes to webinars. Like, that 99% of the time when you sign up for a webinar, there's going to be a pitch at the end of it. So I strongly just believe, and I advise everybody that if you're going to do a webinar, like say up front, right at the beginning of the webinar, today we're going to learn bosh, 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 bosh. By the time we're done, you're going to be able to boom, 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 boom. And if you stick with me right to the very end, I'm going to be telling you about a fantastic new course that will actually show you how to do this and a whole lot more that will enable you to be able to take everything you're doing to a whole new level much faster than were you to just try and figure it out all on your own. And I'm going to be giving you a special offer if you stick around to the very end. So let's get going with the content, shall we? And it's just like that. That's it.
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. Being totally upfront is important. And I think sometimes we can worry so much about being upfront that we then try and sneak it in. And that's actually does, I think, what you're almost the opposite of what you wanted to do. It can actually put people's backs up. So we're kind of like, a lot of people are worried about becoming too sleazy or too selly, if you know what I mean, like the hard sell type of thing.
But here's the thing, if you don't while you tell them up front, two things will happen at the exact same time. Those people that genuinely become interested in what you're talking about will be waiting for the special offer. You've hooked them. They're in. They're your people. They want to know about what you're bringing their way, and they're waiting for it, which makes that buying decision a lot easier for them to make. Secondly, at the exact same time, if people know that there's something coming and it's not really of any interest for them, they're going to disappear anyway. So it makes your conversion rates around to the very end of that webinar, for example, are going to be those that are genuinely interested in potentially working with you or buying your course or whatever the case may be. So I just think, like, they always say honesty is the best policy. I'm not saying that not mentioning that you're going to be making an offer at the end of that call or the end of that webinar is a bad thing. I'm just saying that by doing it, you set yourself up, as far as I'm concerned anyway, for way more success.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It's I think honesty is so important because at the end of the day, you want to get the right people buying a product. I mean, obviously this depends on what you're wanting to do. But if you're a consultant or a coach, you will want to work with the right people. So putting your personality forwards and doing it that way, I think is so important. And this brings me on to my next question, which is, I think we've probably all had experiences. We've gone on webinars and we've got to that point in the webinar and it might be too hard sell, or it might be something about the personality of that person that puts us off. And so what I hear a lot of my clients, my audience talking about is they are worried about, they don't want to be that person. They don't want to be this hard salesperson. Would you agree that we can sell with our own style? We can tailor that sales bit with our own style, and we don't have to copy what other people are doing out there. Any thoughts on that, on how we can tailor the sales message using our own personality?
Well, you should absolutely always do that anyway. You can't. No one can sell the same way that I can sell. No one can sell the same way that Gary Vaynerchuk can sell. No one can sell the same way that Amy Porterfield can sell, or anyone else for that matter online. And that's actually a good thing. That's not a bad thing, because we want people to buy from us because they trust and like us. I'm quoted all the time as saying that you want to become somebody's favorite, and you do. That's a requirement in sales. And guess what? It ain't a newsflash. It's been like that forever. It's been like that forever. You know what I mean? Like, if you go and see the exact same car model from the exact same year with the exact same mileage with zero imperfections on the bodywork in any way, shape, or form from two completely different used car salespeople, and Bob connects with you. Bob knows that you're a Boston Celtics fan, and he's going to talk about Larry Bird for 15 minutes. However, Mike, he don't care. He just wants to sell the car and make some commission. I'm doing business with Bob because I like Bob. Bob's my favorite used car salesman. And I think that's, a lot of people, they forget about that. They see Gary Vaynerchuk or someone else online doing something in some way, and they try and copy them. Like, don't do that. Gary himself would tell you, do you. Don't do me. And I completely agree with that, 120%, because we're all our own uniquely, very incredibly unique people. And we should lean into that uniqueness. And actually, we should do it completely unapologetically. Like, we shouldn't hold back on it, because our people, our vibe attracts our tribe, right? That's what I've always said. That's what it's all about. So I don't copy other people. That's weak. Be yourself. Show up in your own unique way, and the right people will buy from you.
Absolutely. And I think you've said this many times. You will reject there will be people who will watch you that don't like your style, and they will go elsewhere. But I mean, you're actually doing yourself a favor here, aren't you? You know, you don't want to be working with those kind of people.
No, those are the kind of people that, you know, day 29 of the 30-day money back guarantee want their cash back. Like we don't need those people in our lives. You know what I mean?
We certainly don't. No. So yeah, just make sure that you have that confidence in who you are. Don't, you know, I've heard this said many times, lean into who you are, lean into your flaws. But with the confidence side of thing, with the selling kind of thing, it does come down to confidence. And you could argue, in fact, this actually happened at one of the Youpreneur summits. Every year I go to the Youpreneur summit, there's always some experience where somebody says something that's quite hard hitting every single year. And I think it was because on your Youpreneur summits, you have these mastermind sessions. So which are fabulous. So there's basically one of us has, is it like 5 or 10 minutes?
Something along those lines, yeah.
Something along those lines. So we have to talk about a problem, and then everyone talks about it and gives some thoughts and ideas on this. So I think the problem was, and I can't remember who this was, but it was they weren't sending out their email to their list, and they were struggling with that. And somebody on our table said, "You're being selfish. You're being selfish. Your audience there have signed up, and you're not giving them what they signed up for." And I think it's the same with the webinar side of things. Actually, it's hard.
They sound like one of my coaching clients. I don't know who they are, but clearly that's come from me. Because I agree with it 100%.
Yeah, it's hard hitting stuff. But yeah, you are doing what you want. You're doing this because you want to help people. Well, I mean, you know, Chris, you would agree. You're doing what you're doing, not just to make the money. I mean, obviously, the money is something that is. We all need money, and it's great to make money. You know, this is something you've talked about a lot about the Youpreneur. It's not. We should not be apologetic about that. But we're in this because we want to help people too, and you're going to help people by selling them a product or service that they actually need. It's not. I mean, this is not rocket science, is it?
It's not. And I think, you know, again, people overthink things a little bit. You know, they genuinely do. And I'm just a big believer. If you come from from a good place, from the right place, and you know who you're selling to, you know who you're helping, you know who you're serving. If you do that, you know, you might have a bad month here and there. You might even have a bad quarter, you know, every now and then. But ultimately, you'll have much, much, much more opportunity of success come your way if you're doing things coming from the right place for the right reasons than you were if you're just trying to make a quick buck.
Yeah, totally agree. So just we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you one final question, which is, I see a lot of people do this. They dip their toe. They go live, and they've done everything you've asked them to do. You know, they've told people that they're good. They've got this new product, and they're going to talk about it, and they've said all of that, and they get to that point, and they mention it, and it's kind of like crickets. They might have 1 or 2 sales, but that feeling of that, I don't know, this kind of pit of despair that they fall into. I mean, we hear all these amazing stories of, you know, and you shared one, you know, you're able to sell all these access to Youpreneur on Periscope. But some people will do this and then it just doesn't work. What would you say that they need to do for next time?
You could dust yourself off, get back to work. You know, it's that simple. One thing I would suggest you doing, you know, we're lucky that we're in the world that we're in nowadays where we can reach out to people when we know people have been on our lives. We know who has watched and registered, you know, for our webinars. We know who's on our email lists. Like, ask them. You know, I thought I put together a pretty good, you know, training and a good offer for my course. You didn't buy, and I'm just curious as to know why. Please just hit reply to this email and let me know. I'd absolutely love to hear back from you, and I genuinely would treasure your feedback, you know, sincerely. And then based on whatever you hear from them, you know, it could have just been something as very simple as the language that you use. And I'm not talking about swear words or anything, but like, you know, it could be marketing message. It could be a headline on the sales page. It could be, the color of the button, the buy now button on your landing page. There's so many different reasons as to why people do or don't do things. And I think if you don't ask for that sort of type of feedback, just like if you don't ask for the sale, you'll never make the sale or get the feedback. And the success, don't be clouded by everybody's success online as well, because there's plenty of failures in there as well. 2010, I launched Virtual Staff Finder, and it was a massive, massive success, and it's still crushing to this day, 10 years later. 2012, we launched Your Web PA, which was ultimately it was like freelancer.com on steroids with my personal staff in my facility. And it was a complete bomb. I lost 60 grand and 5 months of my life on that deal. But the fact is, if I hadn't have dusted myself off and got back to work 3 years later, chances are I wouldn't have, launched Youpreneur. And, you look at how that's grown as a brand, with both from, originally being a membership, very humble beginnings, so to speak, a membership, merchandise sales, online events, courses, masterminds, coaching programs, inner circles. I mean, it's all there. And it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have dusted myself off from that failure and got back on the horse and launched in the first place.
So true. This is something that I see in my kids, or I used to do when they were like toddlers. They'd, like, my son would, like, I don't know, try and crawl along the road, not along the road. That wouldn't have been good.
What are you doing to your children?
Just
Father of the Year award goes to, right?
Yeah. But yeah, they fall over, they pick themselves up, and I think some of us lose that when we get older, and we fall over and we think, oh, that's the end of the world. And so we so often will see everyone else's successes, but with those successes, there's probably been 2, 3, 4, 5 failures along the way. But they've learned from those experiences. And so that is really, really important. And I also love what you said, Chris, about, and this can be really scary, is reaching out to people individually. I've done this, and I remember the first time I did this, I was so scared. I don't know why, because it's not like they were going to say to me, Ian, go away. I hate you. They said, in one case, they said, oh, thank you so much. This sounds like a really amazing course. At the moment, it's not the right time for me, but let me know how I can help. In fact, actually, I might be interested in a couple of months' time. I mean, that's a win, actually, isn't it? That's a win.
I mean, they've already rejected your offer. What's the worst thing that can happen? They don't reply. Really? Yeah. That's kind of like, that's about as bad as it can get at that point, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's so true. Well, thank you so much, Chris. We could probably talk about this topic for a lot longer, but I wanted to today really to focus on some of the barriers that we can have, but also just the simple things really that we can do to sell more effectively on our live shows. And you've been so helpful, Chris. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts? If you had one more thing to share with us, what would it be?
Yeah, sales is just, it's been in my blood from a very, very early age, right? And it's sales and marketing in general is something that, makes up a large part of my daily work. And I would just say, don't forget the fundamentals. The fundamentals in sales are way more important than anything else. And if you look at the very beginning of the sales process, which, very quickly is broken down: prospecting, qualifying, gaining trust, building rapport, pitching, overcoming objection, pitching, close, that sort of type of process. At the very beginning, those first 2 steps are way more important than anything else in the process. Prospecting should always be looking for new customers, regardless of what industry you're in or what you're selling. First and foremost, always be prospecting. And then number 2 is that qualification as well, because with every minute that you spend with a prospect, that's a minute that you're not spending with another prospect, which could be much, much more qualified in terms of, are they going to buy or not? And so that a lot of people, they like the idea of getting 10,000 people on their email list. But if you're not segmenting that list, so to speak, by getting people to click on a link that says, yes, Ian, I'm interested in your going live course when it's available next month. Like the moment somebody clicks there, you've qualified that prospect. These 2 things people skip over way too often, particularly online. But here's the beautiful thing about it. If you respect and you make your way through that sales process properly of prospecting, qualifying, gaining trust, building rapport with your prospects, going ahead and pitching with benefits and features and not just on price, and then handling objections when they come your way. And then at the very end of that process, the close itself, if you do all those things right up to that point, the close actually 9 times out of 10 will happen all by itself. You won't even have to ask for the order because they'll be ready and waiting to buy whatever it is you've got to sell.
Wow. Well, I hope you had a pen and a notepad writing all those things down, because that was pure gold. Thank you, Chris. And of course, if you missed some of that, of course, you can watch the replay. The show notes for this will have a full blog post at iag.me/ just to double check. It is 77. I just had a mind blip then. iag.me/77. Thanks, Chris, so much. How can people find out more about you? I mean, I know you have scattered yourself across the socials and the interwebs, but where's the best place? Where do you hang out the most?
I mean, I wouldn't be much of a personal brand business owner myself if I didn't have my own domain name, right? So chrisducker.com is where everybody wants to go. And really, when it comes to social, I'm an Instagram girl. That's my style. And so at Chris Ducker on Instagram, hit the follow, send me a DM. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody might have.
Oh, that's great. I love your Instagram. I've been slightly off Instagram the last couple of months for various reasons, but I'm now back in, and I'm really looking forward to keeping up with all your Instagrams, because it's you're pretty your number one social network. I think it's where you.
It's where the most engagement is. It's where I find you talk about prospects and qualifying people.
Yeah.
Just yesterday I put a post up on my Instagram story saying, hey, if you're interested in me coaching you and helping you hit your goals between now and the end of the year, reply with the word incubator, which is the call to action for our group. Yeah. And within like 5 minutes of the post going live, I had 2 people reply saying, yes, I want to know more. I think what it comes down to, particularly online, is we have a lot of different opportunities to use your terminology, scatter yourself around everywhere. But the fact of the matter is only 1 or 2 of those platforms is going to hit for you. And when you discover what they are, you should double down on those, because it might not last forever and you should make the most out of it. Periscope is the perfect example.
It is, but we won't cry too much. So thanks so much, Chris. It's been great to have you on. If you definitely check out Chris's website, chrisducker.com, and follow him on Instagram at chrisducker. That'd be fabulous. But until next time, I encourage you to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of Confident Live Video. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Confident Live Marketing Podcast with Ian Anderson Gray. Be sure to join the community at iag.me, where you can continue to level up your impact, authority, and profits through the power of live video. And until next time, toodaloo.